what is the definition of aging?
Mm.
I mean, what is that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Anti-aging. Use this cream on your face for anti-aging. And I talk about myself. Let's reverse aging. Well, what does that mean? So how can we define aging?
And this is a bigger question than I think many people really even consider, right? So, in the process of filming the Human Longevity Project, which is a 9-part series, so it's like 12 hours of content, right? And I invited probably upwards of 95 health practitioners, doctors, experts of all kinds to contribute to this. And one of the things I asked many of them was, what is aging? And I didn't get a consistent answer. And so some people said it's basically the passage of time, essentially, right? It's how many birthdays you have. And that's as good of an answer as anything else, because fundamentally, scientifically speaking, we actually don't have a definition of aging. When we talk about aging, sort of colloquially, we talk about it in terms of the effects of aging, right? So the mitochondria are aging, or the cell is aging, or the body is aging, or the liver is aging. But really what we're talking about is the deleterious effects. We're talking about the damage accumulation of aging. But there's two fundamental theories of aging. One is sort of the damage theories. There's a group of different things involving mitochondria, involving the cell membranes, involving the actual DNA itself, and telomeres. And those are kind of the damage theories. But then you have the programmed theories. And to be honest, this is where more of the recent science is actually pointing to. There's some mechanism that's involved with the human body itself and with all organisms that is controlling this process of aging. So fundamentally, we can think of aging is a process, right? So this is something that happens kind of organically. And as far as I can see, I haven't seen anybody that can resist this process. No mammal, no insect, no human. Everything and everybody ages. We don't know what it is, and we don't know where it's occurring or what's controlling it, right? So I think it's important to admit what we don't know, because then we start leaping to these wrong conclusions. So a lot of what we're talking about with aging and anti-aging, reverse aging, it's actually talking about the effects of aging itself. And so, for example, the thymus gland, right? This is controls a lot of immune function. This is where T cells are produced. Really important organ system that nobody really talks about, but it's there. The peak function of your thymus gland and the development, it peaks at about 13, right around puberty, and then from there it declines. The function declines. It starts to becoming a little more fatty. So our peak sort of immune function on the thymus level happens at 13. So why is it that we age, we develop faster with the thymic, and then we start to age faster? Whereas we haven't even developed our nervous system fully until age 25, 26, something like that, right? So everything is sort of operating on its own timing, right? And so when we talk about the age of a human, we may have organs that are aging faster than other organs, right? We may be able to repair certain organs better than other organs. We may be able to repair different cell types better than other cell types in the same organ, right? So aging is something that's a little bit hard to even pin down. Now, one of the things that is the modern science is nailing down on is telomeres, right? They're measuring telomeres to predict aging. Now, this is just a way to sort of to monitor the scale, right? So it's giving us a sort of a data point that says, okay, you've been on this planet 60 years, but your telomeres suggest that you're 80. In other words, that means that you're getting closer to the maximum lifespan or the average lifespan than your age suggests. But that's just a damage marker. We can repair that, right? We have telomerase. We can repair DNA double strand breaks and these type of things. So we can repair this damage. But ultimately, when we're measuring telomeres, what we're doing is we're using white blood cell telomeres typically, and we're assuming that the lengths of those telomeres represent all the telomeres in our body. Right. But that may not be the case if your liver telomeres are shorter and your white blood cell telomeres are longer and your heart telomeres are longer. We don't know. So it's organ specific, tissue specific, cell specific. And the cool part is that when we measure telomeres for different cell types and we see a natural variation, and then we do really positive things. We can take certain supplements. We can basically reverse some of the damage, so to speak. We can clean up some of the damage. What the body does is it preferentially lengthens the telomeres that are the shortest, right? So we actually can see some sort of averaging of the mean, so to speak. And so if we're just measuring the white blood cells at telomere length and we do all these positive changes, we may not see much change in the white blood cell telomere length, but we might see a lot of change in our kidney telomere length, for example, if that was what was shortest, right? So I'm trying to point to this idea that we have these measurements and these markers that we're trying to use to gauge what aging, where we're at in this sort of aging process. But as far as anything has ever been really looked at, we're not there yet. We've got some other things that we can look at, something called the Horvath clock. Right? There's all the method, which is essentially methylation patterns, which tend to shift as we age. But again, that's an effect of aging, right? So as we see methylation patterns changing, that's just telling us essentially what's already happened, right? It doesn't really give us an indication of what aging is or what's controlling the methylation patterns that are naturally shifting.
I love what you're saying, because I have been working with my mentor since my rock bottom 15 years ago, as far as telomere length and anti-aging on a skio machine. And this is a machine that a device that scans over 10,000 items in your body. And I asked him a while ago, I said, well, what is my biological versus chronological age? And he said, well, hormonally it's this, but then it's physically it's this, and da, da, da. So there wasn't just one number.
I love that.
It was based on different things. And I find it so interesting. I never knew that your thymus gland peaked at 13. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm just thinking through this. You're a 7th grader and your immune system is peaking. Well, we've just gone through the younger years when you probably had more colds and flus than ever before. It's making my wheels turn a little bit about that.
But you're pointing to the complication of what we're talking about. The human system is unbelievably complicated. It is not this like sort of simple thing, and we can actually regrow thymus tissue. And part of that's dependent on melatonin. And melatonin production naturally declines as we quote unquote age, as we get older, right? So there's interactions in the body there. And if we take supplemental melatonin, which can be very beneficial when it comes to, especially as we get older, let's just say, we can actually regrow thymus gland, right? So it becomes very interesting, and it's all intertwined with the natural programmed aspect of the body. So there's these programmed theories. The prominent one is called antagonistic pleiotropy, which essentially just means that it's important for a species to peak in sexual function and then die out. In other words, we need sort of species turnover, so to speak, or interspecies turnover. We need the population to turn over. That actually proves worthwhile. It helps keep the population here. In other words, the species will thrive for more time if we have turnover. In other words, it's not advantageous to the species if we have people or bears or any animal living past its prime into hundreds or thousands of years. It doesn't produce an advantage. So there's kind of this like evolutionary biology meets a creator. It's a really interesting sort of part of this aging thing. So the programmed theories, whatever is going on there, seem to hold a little bit more information than these sort of damage theories, which I think are part of the equation. But the way I look at it is we have a programmed aspect to our biology. In other words, there's a process of being born and dying, and we're not going to change that. That is an important process. It's a valuable process. And if we can get in line with that process and accept it, then it's a better thing. And then we have the damage component, which is layered on top of that. So if we have an accumulation of damage, we do the wrong things, and we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're going to speed up our quote unquote aging clock. And if we do all the right things, we're living in harmony in our mental aspects, the emotional aspects, the physical aspects, and with our environment, then we can extend that timeline as much as we can. But nevertheless, that clock runs out. So this idea of living forever or aging as a quote unquote disease, I think those are ideas that we really would benefit to do away with and accept the fact that aging is a beautiful process to fall in love with, and getting older, while perhaps limiting us from some of the things that we were doing when we were young, does have its own advantages and benefits too, right? When I hang out with people that are in their 80s and 90s and beyond 100, the wisdom that I gain, the insights, the calm mental and emotional attitude about life, about God, it all feels so good. They're more like children because they're at the end of their life. And so this to me is something to learn from, not fight against.